Hey everyone, my name is Jose Cortez, and I'm going to be presenting on the life and the art of Wilfrid Lamm. So let's get started. So Wilfrid Lamm, he was born on December 8th, 1902 in Sagao La Grande, Cuba. He was the 8th child of 16 children, born to a Chinese immigrant father and a mother of African and Spanish descent. Living in Sagao, or Cuba in general, is deeply credited with impacting the kind of art that Lamm produced and his style of production. His parents pushed him to study law in 1916, and so he left to Havana, Cuba, the capital, and this was initially to study art. By 1918, Wilfrid had begun to study art at Havana School of Fine Art, and by 1923, he received a scholarship to study abroad in Europe, specifically Spain. And that same year, he headed to Spain. He was 21 years old. This is a picture of Wilfrid Lamm. It's not known exactly when it was taken. You can judge by the way he looks. He was probably 25 to 30, maybe in his mid-30s. So Wilfrid traveled to Spain and studied academic painting in Madrid. There he followed a lot of teachers, and he also got a lot of influence. Spain is also credited with giving him the ideas and showing him different movements of modern art that were going on at the time. He was a frequent visitor of art halls and museums all around Spain and Paris. In 1931, his first wife, Eva, and his son, Wilfredo Victor, died due to tuberculosis. He expressed this tragedy in various art pieces of his after that happened, and eventually in 1936 he joined the Republican forces in the Spanish Civil War. Once that didn't work out for him, he fled to Paris in 1938, and that's eventually where he met Pablo Picasso through a letter of introduction, and this was in the year 1938. In the next picture, you can see they're both oil on canvas paintings. They both sort of depict a mother and a child. The one on the right you can see is a little bit more dark. And these are the paintings that he produced once his wife and his child died, his first child. The next picture, as you can see, that's Wilfrid Lamm and Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso is probably one of his main influences. They were obviously very good friends, and this is a picture of them together. Lamm and Picasso. So Lamm met many prominent artists and teachers through Picasso. Because of this, he started to exhibit different modernist styles. Specifically, for an example, you could look at the Two Nudes in 1937. It was also at this time that he started to use Cubism techniques, which we see in his most famous painting called The Jungle. And after meeting Andre Breton, Lamm became a member of the Surrealism movement. Non-Western art is said to be critical to his development. So over here you can see the picture. To the left is the Two Nudes, and then to the right is just another depiction of Cubism and the different movements, his different influences. You can see he changes colors a lot, and he uses weird shapes. In 1941, once the Second World War drove Lamm to Marseilles, France, where he joined a group of intellectuals trying to flee Europe because of the war. In 1941, he left France and returned to Havana, Cuba, his homeland. It was here that Lamm started to develop his signature style, which blends Cubism and Surrealism. It was during this time that he developed his most famous piece of art, The Jungle. Over here you can see, this is younger Wilfrid Lamm, but this is him in his studio. There's not many pictures due to the time that he was living. It wasn't a very technologically advanced time, but this is a rare picture of him in his studio. style. Overall, Lamb combined his radical modern styles with that of a primitive style. He was very much influenced by Afro-Cubans at the time. And an Afro-Cuban is a Cuban of African descent, obviously. He deeply believed that society focused too much on individuals and individualisms. Because of this, his art shows humanity in a larger scale. To even further this, he painted masks that resembles African paintings. And you can see this in his art, later on in his life. He doesn't really do a lot of portraits of people or self-paintings of himself. He uses a lot of masks, and he paints broader, wider images. Using Cubism, modernism, and influences from some of the greatest artists of all time, he created very original masterpieces, and he's regarded as a legendary artist. His most famous piece is right here. It's called The Jungle. As you can see in there, you can see different, if you look closely, you can see different shapes. There's essence of Cubism, essence of Surrealism in the painting. And you can also see different, if you look closely enough, you can see faces of almost African tribal masks, which is from the Afro-Cuban influence that he had. And this is his most famous painting. This is him later on in his life. To the left, that's when he was dying. And to the right is just a regular picture of him. Later in life, following his return to Cuba, Lamb was in between New York City, Havana, Cuba, and Italy, Milan, Italy. My bad. In 1950s, he's credited with the creation of the Phase movement and the Situationists. Further in his career, Lamb's work reflected a growing interest in printmaking, and he collaborated with various poets and writers. Lamb was between Paris and Albisola, Mar, Italy, in his final days. This is where he set up a workshop and continued to work and paint until the time of his death. Wilfrid Lamb died September 11th, 1982 in Paris, France, and his work is still studied and referred to as masterpieces around the world. The last painting I wanted to show you is my favorite by him. It's called The Third World. As you can see, it also combines Surrealism and Cubism into the portrait. And here's my works cited. Thank you for watching. Alright.